I grew up in Gloucester County. It's just over the Young River, about an hour, a little over an hour from here. And I was next to the youngest of 9 children. And my father was a carpenter. My mother was a teacher. She finished Hampton in 1908. And she actually she was an entrepreneur before it was popular for women to stay home and have a business. My mother grew daffodils and sold them. She raised chickens and sold eggs. She what else did she do? It was a third thing that she did. Oh, holly wreaths. Christmas time we made holly wreaths, and the trucks from Baltimore would come and pick up the holly wreaths or the daffodils. But that was the way she earned a little money while she was home. See, the other women in the neighborhood, they just stayed home barefoot to have babies. But mother had a little business going along for them. And they emphasized education. It was understood that, it was important that you do, get an education. And we were always surrounded with magazines. Sometimes they were old, but we had magazines and newspapers. And of course, our chief recreation was in the church. And we were fortunate enough to have a minister who was college trained, and he wanted the best for us. And they encouraged the young people to be involved in the church and in the community. Uh, my father was very, very, very vocal about inadequacy among the blacks in the county. And he was not too popular with some of the people who felt as though they had to do what the white man said do. And we would go to meetings sometimes. Anytime, if there was a church meeting or any type of meeting where he had an opportunity to say something, he'd get up. And my youngest brother and I would kind of go down and I'd see, oh, Papa's at it again. And because of that, his attitude, so often the teachers took that out on us because, I don't know, they were afraid of the superintendent. And I can understand why. They were afraid to lose their jobs. So they just accepted whatever, whatever came by. For example, one time they used to have a state tuberculosis essay contest, and I did enter. I entered that. Incidentally, I wrote it. The night I wrote it, I was sitting there on the floor. We had a blackout at that time, so when we were supposed to have a light on, so I had my lamp on down on the floor, and that's when I wrote my essay. But anyhow, I won state first prize in the state, and I was supposed to have been presented it at the PTA meeting. You know how they presented it to me? The home ec teacher met me in the bookless library and handed me, we called them savings bonds, and she handed me my savings bond, and that was it. But one person in the county who was very active, she had it put in the little local newspaper. I still have that article. Yeah. And there are lots of little things like that they would do to sort of get, even with us because our dad was involved. And one incident, I'm not just sure what grade I was in. I think I must have been about probably 10th grade. And the principal was the sponsor of the senior class. And our class was the first period. And he was always late coming to that first period class. So my cousin, who lived right across the road from us, he said, let's just not go in when he comes. So when Mr. Campbell came and he opened the door, nobody would go in. He said, Miss Davenport, why don't you go in? I said, I'm not the only one out here. Miss Davenport, go in. So I went in, I think I slammed the door, I don't know, but anyhow, I was accused of inciting the class to mob violence. And I was sent home for 2 days, supposedly for 2 days, but my father attended to that. I didn't miss any time. And I was not the person who instigated it at all. But doesn't that sound exciting? Instigating the class to mob violence? That was pretty funny, but that was kind of typical Of course, the schools were so inadequate, and we did not always have the best teachers, which was kind of unfortunate. For example, when I went to college, I didn't know a noun from a verb.
Mm.
So with that, we had some of that going on. And in elementary school, I first attended this little two-room school. Well, that was a big school. See, most of them were one room, so I was at a big school. But anyhow, unfortunately, it burned down. So they would decide what they were going to do with the students. So they had a large. The lodges were popular among the blacks then. They had the different lodges. There was this whole large building right beside our church. So we went to school there, and the teachers, taught us there. But someone from the school board came to interview all of the students. And I haven't figured out now yet why. Supposedly to find out if we needed a school. I don't know. But you know what she did? She asked each one of us to give the names and ages or birthdays of all of our siblings. Now here I am with 7 people older than I am. Had no idea. And then she was kind of cross with me because I'd have one older than the other one when she was supposed to be younger. But anyhow, they finally decided to bus us to pass a couple of high schools to a school that was about, I think Bethel was at least probably about 4 miles from home.
Wow.
And the highways were not paved at that time. And we had one nice steep hill, which was clay. And you know what happens to clay when it's wet? It's slippery. That bus would slip down trying to get up. It was awful. But anyhow, one time it broke down actually about every week. One day it broke down. This was in the fall. It's a hot fall day, And of course, we didn't have phones then. So we were walking and we passed by this house, this white family. The man in the house had one leg. So we wanted some water. We were so thirsty. So we went and asked him, could we have some water? He said, I ain't got no water. And he would not even give us no drink of water. So anyhow, we trudged on home. But it's funny, I don't think our parents worried about us. We didn't have cell phones and whatever. I guess they knew we'd be there pretty soon. But that's just typical of things that we went through. And the white kids had free textbooks, so we had to buy our textbooks. And the school, the materials in the school was so inadequate. I learned my science class from a textbook. We didn't have anything in there. We just read the textbook. So you know how much I learned from that, don't you? So that's kind of typical of the elementary and high school. But I was tops in my class when I finished high school. And my baby brother was tops in the college, and my older sister was tops, and 3 of us were tops in our college classes. So my mother somehow bought a piano for me, and I don't ever remember starting to play, but I could play by ear. So I ended up playing for Sunday school and church, and folks in the county didn't know notes at all. So eventually Mother ordered the correspondence course in music, and I kind of learned from that. So, but there was a whole lot I didn't learn. Then, of course, when I went to college, there were all these persons who had studied, so this person, and poor me, all I could say was I had a correspondence course. I did have 2 lessons with a music teacher, but we couldn't afford the lessons, so that's why we didn't. And the woman who was my sponsor, she said, well, Davenport, I don't know if you're going to make it. And I hated her till the day I left there. And she inspired me, I knew then. If she says I'm not going to make it, I am going to make it. And my piano teacher at the end of my graduation, she said I had made more progress than any student she'd ever had. And she gave me an A, and she didn't give A's. So, and of course I finished #1 in our own class. I actually was #1 the freshman year. I still have a little gold charm that they gave me. But college life was great. I was poor. We didn't have anything. And if I had a nickel and could buy a Pepsi and had Ritz crackers and peanut butter, oh my, that was a wonderful treat. I taught myself. I taught myself to play the piano. It was just understood that was what I was going to do. On my father's side, they were very musical people that sang. I don't know of any that played an instrument. Not that I know, but they did sing. And a couple that lived in Philadelphia, and they had sung with groups and they could read music. I don't know, just understood. 8 of my 9 siblings all went to college in art, home ec, social work. I said art, but it was just understood that I would do that. But after that, Miss Lindsay told me she didn't know if I would make it. I had decided I was going to become an army nurse if I didn't know, if I couldn't make it in the music. But we had some good times. It was a nice little town, and had the little clubs and what have you.
How big was the town at this time?
How big was what?
The town?
Oh, I don't remember. That's one thing that left my mind alone. I really don't know. I don't remember.
When we were driving through it, I think it was a lot bigger than I was expecting.
Yeah, it's not as big as it was. I do remember, what was the name? Mary Jane had a shop at my friend used to go there and buy things, and you couldn't try on anything there, But Minta would go and buy her clothes for Mary Jane. I don't know if Mary Jane is still there. I never bought anything there. When I finished in 47, music teachers were not very, well, it was difficult for music teachers to get a job because they did not have that much music in the schools. So I went into D.C. and stayed for a while and taught piano. And then I was at home in Gloucester cleaning my mother's kitchen, and this guy came. Actually, he was from Gloucester, but I didn't know him. I knew his sisters and brothers, but I didn't know him. And said they needed a music teacher, so to fill in an application. So I did. So that's how I wound up being there for him, and they were good people there. I enjoyed being there, but the school Moton was built to, I think, house 250 students, I believe, and we had 500. Some classes were taught in the buses and on the stage and in the auditorium. I'd be trying to have a class on stage, and they'd be having a class out there in the auditorium. I did have a music room, but there were no supplies when I got there. They did have a piano. They did not have a record player. There were a few old records and some real antique music books, and that was just it. And it was the conditions were just terrible. No supplies, just terrible. So, and my husband, MB, I call him MB. He loved his students, and each one was personal, just like they were his own child or his own children. And he would go to the school board and ask for materials he wanted. Sometimes he got them, but he had a reputation of being a good principal, and he was. But the kids were just, they would go to other schools sometimes for special events, and they'd come back and say what we didn't have and what they wanted. And I just got so sick and tired of saying they're going to build a new school and nothing happening. And of course, about the bus. The kids being killed.
Yeah, could you tell us a little bit more about that? Because they kind of touched on it briefly yesterday.
Yeah, it's just that I think the best bus stalled, I think, on the railroad track. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think they were saying, at least what they told us yesterday was that it was like an older bus and it shouldn't even have
yes, everything they had was older.
Yeah.
And I think 5 kids were, I believe it was 5.
So did you feel like there wasn't really like a shift, like everyone was still just as angry before that, or Barbara especially?
The girl that was killed was a good friend of hers, so that might have propelled her, too. But I don't know that made that much difference. But it was a terrible thing. And the parents had to sue the school board to collect insurance. Yeah, that was a terrible thing. And a lot of this I've tried to just to forget. You just don't like to remember, a lot of things that happen. You don't want to remember them. I'm surprised I remember as much as I did. But as I say, I can remember things from way back. I'm pretty good at that. And he instilled that unity and that oneness of family kind of thing. He encouraged that. And for the most part, that's the way it was. We had one particular man whose wife worked for the superintendent. Mm-hmm. So anytime we had a meeting, he would tell his wife what went on. And then she would, of course, share it with the superintendent. But other than that, it was a close, we worked together. Mm-hmm. And for the most part, we had very good teachers. Mm-hmm. So it was a nice relationship, very nice relationship. So the last period in the day, I had a music appreciation class, and Barbara Jones was in the class. And lots of times we didn't do much music, they just sat and complained, and I let them complain. By that time I was tired anyhow, but anyhow, I listened to them. And then Barbara made a statement. She said, I wish somebody would do something about it. So I said, well, why don't you do something about it? Wasn't that something to say to a 15-year-old kid? But I did. And then I mentioned that I had read an article in a magazine, it was a music magazine, and I think it happened in Massachusetts, somewhere in that area, where students had gone on strike for something. And I told them, I said, they can do that, you can do it. So that was the end of that. So Barbara used to stop by my room in the mornings, often, just to talk. And so she stopped by, she said, do you think we could have a strike? And I said, yes. Why not? So she said, will you help me? And I said, yes. And that was pretty stupid. I didn't know what I was talking about. I mean, and I was so naive as to think if we went on strike, we're going to get a new school. I didn't want to think about it. Anyhow, so she asked me if I would help them. I told her I would. So what we did in our planning, we wrote notes and exchanged notes. She would write a note asking, how she would do such and such a thing, and stick it in the music book, and then she'd put the book on my desk in the morning. And then I'd write a reply and give her a book, and she, that would be the answer. But we had sworn never to let anybody know. But when you think about it, that was quite a risk, wasn't it, to do that? And that's how we made our plans. And finally I said to her, we've got to stop doing this because it'll look suspicious with you coming in here every day like this. So, that was before we did the notes. I told her we couldn't come and talk, so that's when we started the notes. And that went on, and we made the plans, and I planned the assembly for them. Oh, in the planning, we were trying to decide how we were going to notify the students to come together to explain to them. And I said, well, we got to get the principal out of the office. You'll never do it with him. So I don't know who suggested that. It might have been Watson. I don't know if I did, that we would get him out of the building by someone calling from downtown to say some students are down there getting into trouble. So I heard his office door bang. I said, oh, he's out now. So Barbara had a note to circulate it and signed an initial the way that my husband used to sign. And they assembled that way. And I remember, it wasn't until then I began to be afraid. I said, now, suppose they get hurt. Maybe this wasn't such a good idea. And the home ec teacher came through. She said, I'm going to have a meeting in here this morning. And I looked at her, and she looked at me and said, why are you looking at me like that? But I was saying to myself, you can't have a meeting here today. So anyhow, then that's really the way it got started, that way, and the kids were not interested in integration. That was not the aim at all. We just wanted a school, a decent school. But then the NAACP, the thing kept growing, you know. The NAACP got involved because I backed out. I was out of it then, and so that's how it ended up with Brown versus Board of Education. I was sick and tired of the you know, he and those other two guys, they out with their little briefcases, meeting with the committees, talking about getting to school. And I was just fed up because I think a little of my dad was in me. I think that's it. And I was just sick and tired of it. And I said, well, shoot, let's do something about it. But I was naive enough to think that a strike would solve the problem. And you know, that was beautiful, wasn't it? I thought that they were just automatically, you know, okay, these kids are serious. We're going to give them a school. But I find myself wondering if with the NAACP getting in, if they had let it alone, of course, maybe we wouldn't have an integration. So I don't know what should be and what shouldn't be. I don't know. Whatever. It was just a matter of being fed up with it and wanting to see better conditions. People who thought that my husband started a strike, he didn't know anything about it. About 3 days after it started, I decided to tell him, and he was furious. You had no business getting involved. And then the superintendent called meetings. One of the quiet things the superintendent said was, "You'll have got to get these students back in school." So I said, "Well, suppose we can't get them back in school." "Well, we'll have to try something," he said. And he was furious, right? When you go to a meeting, keep your mouth closed. Don't say anything. So I didn't have to that. But the students did a good job of organizing. And, you know, they didn't, the assembly wasn't exactly everything I wanted, but they told me they didn't have time to do everything they wanted to do. So it worked. You know, one of the questions they wanted to know was, should they tell their parents? I told Barbara, no. If you tell your parents you plan to strike, they're not going to agree with it. Don't tell. So the parents didn't know. Even Barbara's sister didn't. Now, I have to say this, there are those who doubt my honesty, who declare that that was not true, that I had nothing to do with it. Now, you know, why would I lie about that? I had no reason to lie. And, you know, back there then, for a 15-year-old to plan and execute a strike, you know, that's kind of weird to think about. So there are those who do, to this day, I think, doubt that I had anything to do with it. If I had just kept one note, that would have been good, but I was scared to death. I destroyed those notes as fast as I got them. And that's really how it started. I had no idea that the walkout was coming. But they agreed, you know, with the problems that we had, and they didn't hesitate to express that. They were aware of that. And that's one of the things that really made me feel bad afterwards, because those teachers lost their jobs. They had to go other places, and the students, you know, their education was interrupted. Some of them never finished high school. And I really felt guilty about that, because I think maybe if I had never said anything and never put that bug in Barbara's ear, it never would have happened. I never let them know about it. It was a secret. The 50th anniversary of Brown versus Board of Education, they invited my husband to come up. And I told him I was not going. And he said, why? I said, I feel guilty. I'm not going, I won't have any part of it. He said, well, you go and tell the story. So that was the first time that I let them know that I had been involved. And I don't know how they felt about me after that. I have no idea. But you can see how that would make me feel bad that I had anything to do with anything like that. So there's one teacher that I finished college with, and she taught there. So we keep in touch, but I don't know of if there are any others left. See, I'll be 94 in August. So, and she is.
You're doing great. You're doing fantastic.
Well, see, now I can tell you things that happened years ago, but if you ask me what I ate yesterday, I would say, I'm not sure. That's the bad thing, that short-term memory just goes. You spend half of your life looking for things. So I don't know how many of them kept in touch afterwards. Of course, my husband. I was going to be on my paternity leave because I was expecting him, and the superintendent told my husband, I'm not going to fire you, but I'm not going to renew your contract." so that ended that, and there he was. Well, we had been married just a little over a year, so I'm a bride expecting a baby. No, didn't know what was going to happen next, but anyhow, well, I had a sister who was living in Chester, Pennsylvania, and she said I could come and stay with her until the baby was born, and that's what I did. And he was able to get a job in Alabama. No, the state blackballed, and he couldn't get a job anywhere in the state. And he had a reputation of being an outstanding principal, but he did get this job. So I stayed with my sister until Thanksgiving. Charlene was born in September, and then November I went to Montgomery, Alabama. Whew. And he had bought this school that showed him where he could get an apartment. Now, I never lived in an apartment. I mean, I used to live in a house where you've got land and what have you. So here I am with a new baby, stuck in an apartment. So that in itself was horrible, just horrible. And of course his salary was he didn't get very much salary. So it really, it was a struggle to make ends meet. And I remember one time the electric bill was late. About maybe a couple of weeks, and they cut the current off. Now, here I am with a new baby, and they just cut off. Unfortunately, a lady across the hall had this long extension cord, and then plugged that in, and so he paid the bill and got that done. But it was a terrible, terrible place. And my husband would go to buy liquor. They had a line for blacks and a line for whites. And I rode the bus twice when I was there. And twice they asked me to move. Finally he said to me, "Don't you get on that bus anymore." I wasn't driving it. The year after we left was when Rosa Parks refused to move. See, had I been there then, I would have been in jail with 2 babies. But and that particular bus went through just a predominantly black neighborhood. Rarely was there any white person on it, but you did not sit on the front seats, even if there was nobody getting on. You just didn't get on that. And when they asked me to move, one time there was a young white guy was in there, and when he told me to move, the guy asked him, said, "Well, why?" He said, "Because I say so." So I got to be moved, but I knelt on this seat anyhow. I put my knee on it, so I didn't get on any more buses after that, but it wasn't a nice experience at all. I don't have good memories. And from there, he decided he was going to go and get his PhD. So I spent a year staying at home with my mother with the 2 kids. And I had 3 kids at that time. And then he got a job at Maryland State. I think it's a different thing, Maryland University or whatever. But it was Maryland State, then Princess Anne, Maryland. So he was able to get a job there. And we stayed there for a while. That was okay. Well, I was still in an apartment. And then a job in Lawrenceville, St. Paul's College. Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah.
That closed, unfortunately. So it was nice. It was a nice campus. And everybody it was like a big family. So the kids and all, we enjoyed being there. And then he got an offer to come to Norfolk State. So that's how we wound up here in Virginia Beach. He was offered a job in some in West Africa, I forget which country, but we had just started building this house. But I didn't want to go anyhow. But I think maybe if he hadn't started this house, he may have gone. But I'm glad he didn't, because I didn't want to go. So we've been here since 1963. So it's been a nice environment. It was entirely a black neighborhood, but now as the older people die or move to live with the children, then the white people are moving in. So it's, I guess, almost half, maybe about a third of it's white now. But it was a close neighborhood. Everybody knew everybody, that kind of thing. But that has changed. I just hope for good people to come in. That's what I hope. And my children have all done well. My oldest son, he's a ear-nose-throat doctor in Atlanta, and the one that lives here is internal medicine.
Wow, that's very impressive.
And my last one son, he was in electronics, but an active musician, a saxophonist. And my daughter, she sung in operas in Scotland and England, and also in Washington, but now she teaches music in Greensboro, North Carolina. That's where she lives. So, and all of my grandkids have done well, are doing well. These are all of my grandkids right here.
Oh my gosh, how lovely.
Oh my gosh, you have such a lovely family. So
Oh, I love that.
so sweet.
And I have my second great-grand.
Oh my
Really?
God.
Congratulations.
She lives in London, so
Oh,
I
wow.
haven't seen your baby yet. But when my daughter got married, she was living in Nairobi. She volunteered at the Harvard, some kind of volunteer service when she finished. And she married. We went over there to her wedding. It was nice. So I'm proud of all my grandchildren, but they're doing well. I have one who is an entertainer. Are you familiar with the Moton, the musical?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He was in that. He saw that traveling all over.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
well, and the mother of the two little kiddies, she got her PhD in London.
Wow.
And she does mostly research. She works at a university there.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, so I'm really proud of all of them. They're doing well. People just need to get together and love it, and there should be more love and more caring about what's going on, and less thinking about me, but thinking about the other person. Sometimes I think we're put here to look after somebody else, not just for what we get, but togetherness and honesty and peace, and caring about each other. And of course, get over having an education. But we've got to need to do something, because there are too many people suffering, not just physically, but from just plain food and clothing, and the homeless, and the children, and the evilness that streams from Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm.
I just wish I could wave a magic wand and everything would be all right. But what I can see is people getting together and caring about each other and looking after each other.